Hey everyone, this is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean, the co-host of Hater Radio. I am with my other co-host, or the other co-host, Ian Gibson. Ian, how are you on the phone?
Yeah, hey, how we doing?
Hey, so we're doing a live broadcast. This is the first time we've done it, so there might be some bugs to work out here, but this is just how we're doing it. We're doing a playoff reveal as the ESPN is breaking it down here live. We're just giving our opinion on what we think will happen here. Um, obviously a lot went down the last couple of days. TCU lost, USC lost. So, if you thought that things were going to be regular, it clearly is not. And it usually is the way
No.
that things go with the playoffs. It usually doesn't go the way they think it is going into the last week. Something like this happens, and now we have a lot of controversy because Tennessee, Ohio State, and Alabama all have viable cases to get in. Where before this what is it, before this weekend, they probably didn't, because if TCU and USC had won, then this likely would have been, yeah, it just would have been chalk. So as of right now, there's definitely a case to be made that all three of these teams could be to be in. I have the opinion that if you're going to go with what they have said in years past, which is take injuries into account, um, best records, best wins, better losses, and even conference championships, which none of those teams have. Tennessee, Ohio State, Alabama have none of that. So the only thing they can stand on is the fact that they have good wins and better losses. So, Ian, what do you think out of these three of these teams stand out? Which one do you think deserves it out of the three, or maybe two of them deserve to be in there, not TCU?
Well, my thing is that I think TCU does deserve it. I kind of actually right now I have two rankings. I have my rankings and what I think the playoff will be. Um,
Do you
but for
want
me,
to
I
do you
think
want to wait to
TCU
give that to
does.
right before they start releasing, or do you want to give that now?
I mean, we can do it now. I would just be, but it was going into what you're saying. I would probably say, honestly, I would say if there was any team that deserved it, it was even as bad as that South Carolina loss was, and and that Tennessee again with Hendon Hooker out, they don't have much of a fight. But considering what they went through the season, and they have more ranked wins, they beat Alabama, they beat Florida when they were ranked. They and credit, they lost to Georgia, and then they had a bad loss to South Carolina. But they have more ranked wins with better teams than either Ohio State or Alabama. Ohio State hasn't beaten a ranked team yet. And Bama, I believe the best win was, I think, Arkansas or Mississippi State when they were 21 or 23. But with that being said, I guess if I had to do my rankings, it would be Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2. I'm going to put Ohio State at 3 and TCU at 4 because TCU did lose.
Yeah.
And my first two out would be Tennessee and Alabama. But how I think the committee is going to see it, honestly, I think they're going to put Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2, Ohio State will be at 3. But I think because they have always said they pick the better team, and we saw this in 2000, I believe it was 2016 or 17. It was 2016 where they put Ohio State in because they said they were on paper they looked like the better team despite not winning Big Ten. having a loss, taking that into account, I honestly think they're going to put Alabama at 4
Yeah, and
and kick TCU out at 5.
yeah, I honestly think that's what's going to happen too, and it's frustrating, especially if you're a TCU fan, because this will be the second time they will have been screwed again, and I don't know, I have a hard time deciphering what team would be better because it's really kind of like razor thin between these two teams. They have a common opponent in Texas, and they both kind of struggled against Texas. But Texas has a better defense, so that could be why both offenses didn't score that many points. It was also earlier in the year for Alabama, so that you can see why that was an issue. But I don't know. Alabama got better as the year went on. Obviously, those losses to Tennessee and to LSU sting, but those were by the last plays of the game, um, lost by a point or two on each of them. It's I I don't know. I mean, this is tough. This is probably I would say this is the toughest decision that this committee has ever had, and because of the fact that we are going to a 12-team playoff, there will be less of like the top four deciphering. It'll be a more difficult with like trying to decipher 5 through 12 who gets in, but at least there's more variation there, and you can make more arguments. It's really only between these three teams, these 3 or 4 teams, so it's like they're going to struggle here to decipher this. I think you have to take into account with Tennessee the fact that um, they lost Hendon Hooker, which is huge because Hendon Hooker is the heartbeat of that team, and without him, they're not as good. And if they're not as good, I don't think Tennessee deserves to be there. That's just what I feel. Now, as far as TCU goes, they haven't really have the injury bug, so they're fine per se. But that loss to Kansas State does not look good. It was obviously close. It was a 3-point loss, so it's very much in the realm of Alabama's losses, very close. Ohio State, on the other hand, which you could argue was obviously the worst loss out of all three of those. Well, actually, Tennessee has the worst loss to South Carolina, but I would say between the one-loss teams and Alabama, um, Ohio State has the worst loss because they lost by 20 plus to Michigan,
To
which
Michigan.
at home as well. That's what looks even worse. It's not only was it a loss, but it was a loss at home, which you should win. If you're a good team, you should win all your games at home. And Ohio State did not this year, and they looked bad in that game, especially that second half. I think if they played Michigan again, it would be different. I think Ohio State would probably play better and would have a better chance. But as of right now, we won't know. And I don't know. I mean, the matchups, which it could be, if like what you said, would be big time for viewership because if you had Ohio State, Michigan going up again, and Alabama, Georgia again, a rematch from last year's championship and SEC championship game last year, that would be. Hold on, the stream died off. Give me a second. Okay, there it goes. Okay, but it's. Uh, I think those numbers would be huge if that's what is the case. If that actually happens, if they pick those 4 teams, which I think is definitely possible because the argument can be made that those are the 4 best teams all year, regardless of Alabama having 2 losses or not. And I don't know. At this point, it's going to be tough to deny that, and but the case can be made that TCU deserves to be in there. I really think they do. It's frustrating Like if I were a TCU fan, I would be so pissed if they get screwed again because it seems more than likely like that's going to be what happens. And I hope to God that's not what happens because it's almost like it's almost like the committee really only cares about two conferences, the Big Ten and the
in
SEC.
the SEC.
And it's like, it's not really fair to the rest of college football if that's all we really care about. Um, because that's what it would be. It would be two teams from each conference, and it's like basically just a playoff between two conferences. And it's like, we already had conference championships games, and we're basically just going to have it again if we have those rematches. So it's like, I don't know. It's very strange. It's a unique year this year. When we've talked about it all year that this year was very similar to 2007.
2007.
Yeah, it's very very similar. LSU had two losses that year and went on to win the national championship and beat Ohio State. And there was other teams that year. There was like Kansas, there was Missouri, there was USF at one point, Boston College. All these teams laid claim to the one or two spots for the BCS slot, and they didn't get it. I think at this point, I don't think there's any denying that Alabama needs to be that selection, and I think that's what's going to happen. And I hate that for TCU. I really do because I think TCU definitely deserves to be in the top four, but we all know that who deserves to be there and what actually happens is two completely different things, especially with the way this committee selects teams. So I'm excited regardless because it seems like I think we'll get good games. I think whoever Michigan plays, which is more than likely seeming it's going to be Ohio State, I think that's a really good game because it's like it was good up until Ohio State just couldn't get out of man defense and really just let Michigan pass all over them. But I think if Ohio State comes back, I think they'll take more chances in the game against Michigan. I think they were, soft on some of their fourth down decisions and decided not to, give their all on those fourth downs, which could have been different. If they go for it on a couple of those fourth downs, I think there's a good chance they get at least one or two of them, and then that game might be completely different. But then again, Michigan was able to run the ball very well on them, especially at the end. In the first half they were terrible in that game, but in the second half they were really able to run the ball, and that was the difference at the end. I don't know. I am actually really excited about the move to 12 teams because arguments like this will just go away, and we'll get more teams in there. We'll get more exciting matchups. We'll get teams from different conferences. We'll give the AAC teams a chance. And let's just briefly talk about this because we'll talk. Like I don't even know if we'll do a podcast episode. This might just be it, and I just might somehow. Because I'm recording this, so I'll be able to put it up somewhere. But this might be the episode for the week. But USF hiring Alex Golish, that's a huge deal because I was kind of like whatever about it at first, but I'm actually kind of excited because they got burned by Deion Sanders, and then they also got burned by the coach at the Chanticleers, your boy, who's going to end up going to Liberty, yeah. Which I find weird that he's going to Liberty because it very much seems like a lateral move. But whatever, that's a lateral move. That's what he wants to do, and I think he's more. Here we go. So one is Georgia, and they'll probably give two because that's easy because it's Michigan, and then they'll give like 5 and 6 probably after that. I'm telling you, man, I really think it's going to be Alabama.
Unfortunately, I think it should be TCU, but
I know. I think it should be as well, but I really think it's going to be Alabama. No, but back to USF. Just it's he was clearly the third option, but I was surprised because I was like, man, Michigan's number two. But I was just surprised because it was like he wasn't really a front runner for the position. There was some chatter about it, but not a lot of big push for it. But I mean, they had the number one offense and they scored a ton of points. And he's a really good tight end coach, and he was a recruiting coordinator at a couple of the stops that he was at earlier. So I really like the hire. I think he is more able to get out of the offense with less recruits than what Jeff Scott was, because Jeff Scott was seemingly someone that needed a lot of talent to be able to get that offense humming. And he never had the talent at USF, and so he's never able to replicate those same results. All right, here we go. They're going to release probably 5 and 6, probably 6 first, then 5, and then they'll do 3 and 4, or maybe they'll do 3 first. They'll probably.
I think they do 3, 4, and then they do 5, 6. That's how they usually do it.
Is that how they do it? God, man.
At least that's how they usually do it.
I would be so frustrated if I was one of these teams and I didn't get in, because every one of them has a viable case. Oh, TCU got in.
Number 3.
Ooh, all right. I like that matchup though. Michigan TCU.
Wow.
That should be a good one. Wow, that's crazy.
I thought Ohio State was going to leapfrog them. So
leapfrog them.
Ohio State at 4.
Yeah, it's got to be Ohio State at 4. I don't think they would pick Alabama over Ohio State. I don't think they can. I don't think they wanted Ohio State Michigan rematch. I think they wanted something different.
Also from a national champion. Oh, it's Georgia.
Wait, what?
I was going to say, I mean, it technically still is on the table if it is Ohio State at 4.
Yeah, true. God, who do you think it's going to be? It's got to be Ohio State. Like,
it's got to be Ohio State.
Yeah,
Alabama didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be. There's no way it's not
Alabama
Ohio State.
Has 2 losses. Ohio State has the one, even though Ohio State doesn't have as many good wins, but Alabama's wins are not good enough.
And I love Georgia Ohio State as a matchup. I think that's probably the better of the 2 games, and I would think that Ohio State has and I've almost said that all year, that Ohio State has the best chance of beating Georgia because they have the best overall team. They weren't amazing on defense, but they were good enough, and I like the defensive coordinator Knowles, so maybe he can scheme something up, because I don't love Georgia's offense, and I think that Ohio State can move the ball well enough to prevent them from winning, and also there it is. Hell yeah, this is the matchup. All right, I like this.
Ohio State.
I'm excited for this. This is the best case scenario that we got here. And, obviously 5 is going to be Alabama, and then I would say 6 is probably going to be Tennessee. But honestly, 6 should be USC. As much as they have 2 losses, to Utah, which I think Utah is definitely one of the better teams in the country. And, because they only have like a crazy loss to Florida, and then a loss to a really good UCLA, and then a loss to who was the other than they lost to? Was it Oregon? Yeah, Utah lost to Oregon.
I think it was Oregon.
Yeah, Utah lost to Oregon. So, I mean, Utah, if they could have beaten Florida, they would have had an argument to possibly get in. So, but having Utah having 2 wins over USC is pretty huge. God, we didn't get much viewers on this, but I don't really care. I'm glad to do this live. This is the way we're gonna go, and then I'm just trying to figure out, because I don't think Twitter has a live option anymore, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
Alabama at 5. No, but let's just get back to USF and Tennessee. There you go. But let's get back to USF real quick, and then we'll call it a day. Well, actually, let's do this real quick. Let's do Heisman since we've got a second here. Who do you have Heisman wise after this crazy weekend?
I mean, I would still put Caleb Williams in there. I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
he did play as well as he possibly could. Um, I would put Caleb Williams. I would put Max Duggan in there,
yeah.
not just for his performance in the Big 12 championship, but also just all season. He's brought TCU to a lot of these games. Um, and Blake Corum, I still believe is the best running back in the nation. So those would be my three going to New York, but I would see Caleb Williams winning the Heisman.
I think C.J. Stroud needs to go to New York too, for sure.
True.
I think C.J. Stroud had a really good year. The thing that I don't like the most that I'm seeing out there is talk of Stetson Bennett, and it's a lot of real just Georgia fans saying it. He has 26 touchdowns total between both categories, and I don't see how you can argue that is anywhere near Caleb Williams, who has like 40 plus, and C.J. Stroud has like 35 plus or whatever. Like it's not even close. Like I don't know. I don't get like the comparison. It's whatever. They're just it's Georgia fans trying to hype up something that's not very good. They do it every single year. They tried to do it with JT Daniels. They every time they just try to hype up their quarterback as a Heisman worthy quarterback, and it's never the case. And that's what's is a shame because it's like times when it should count when there is a good quarterback or a good player for you, and then you're trying to hype it up, people won't listen to you. So you have to be realistic with your expectations, and the expectation with Stetson Bennett is not there. He's just not good enough, and he doesn't deserve to be there. I don't know. It's just my opinion. I know I'm biased, but still, it's I don't know. He just doesn't deserve to be there. I don't think he's had a quality year, but
Yeah, I got it.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, I would go with all those that you said, and I would include Blake Corum too because he had a really solid year. Just sucks that he's out for the year now. That other guy though is good for Michigan, so that won't be a
Edwards.
yeah.